Hello everyone and welcome back to Farmer Joe Homesteading. This week's farm update, we're going to show you what we are doing to deal with this huge heat wave that we are in the middle of. So if you didn't already have a chance, make sure you check out our video on farming in 30 below. One thing about living up in the north, we get really cold, frigid winters, but we also get really hot summers. So about 6 months ago, February, we were getting minus 30 to minus 40 temperatures. And right now we are hitting the plus 30, pushing into just about the plus 40 range, which in Fahrenheit is in the 90s. So very drastic changes in temperatures, which means that we have to accommodate these changes for our birds. A lot of people like to insulate their chicken coops up here because of our cold temperatures, but we actually tend to not. We have this coop here that we use that the roosters are in right now. The geese were in it previously, and it is fully insulated. But because it is fully insulated, it makes it really, really warm inside. So with this coop, the one nice thing about it is that although it is south facing, which makes the coop inside very warm, there's quite a bit of shade outside. So they've got this shade here from the morning sun, and then they also have around the back of the coop a good, nice shady spot. And this is typically where the birds like to hang out the most because it provides shade to them all day long. So making sure they have good shade is really important. In our other coops, it's not so much a problem. That coop has pretty good ventilation because it's quite a big space and they are free ranged, so they have pretty good ventilation. Our coops attached to the barn are half cement, so they actually stay really nice and cool as well, just because of the cement base. So we just keep it really dark in there, and they really like it because they can stay out of the heat and stay where it is nice and cool. The next thing that is super important during heat waves is water. Making sure that the birds have access to water 24/7 is extremely important so that they can cool off and get a nice good drink. So we make sure that all of our animals have lots of water during this heat as well. One super awesome update that I do not want to forget about is our Miss Stella here adopted our gosling from last week. The garden is obviously loving all of this heat and this wonderful heat wave. However, we have had to keep a sprinkler running on it because things dry out really fast. As you can see, pumpkins are still growing like crazy. We have been eating a lot of our lettuces. We have had Swiss chard this week. Lots of things growing up really nicely that we're able to use. Even the carrots down here on the end are getting really nice and full. So the garden is doing really well, but we have to keep water on it so that it doesn't dry out because it dries out really fast. Fortunately, with this heat wave, we have already lost some birds. We've lost a pullet and a cockerel to this heat wave, which is unfortunately pretty normal. If there's any underlying conditions, it shows up now when they are weak. And so that's the same problem we have when it gets really, really cold. And because chickens are a prey animal, they tend to not show any sickness or illness until it's too late. And so we're making sure we take all precautions, keeping all the waters full, making sure everybody has a way to escape the heat in some way to keep them as healthy as we can. Yesterday, we brought out a watermelon treat for everybody, so everybody was able to have some watermelon, which helps as well. A big issue we have is boredom. The birds get really bored because there's not a whole lot they can do because they're just trying to beat this heat. So we're making sure the tub gets filled multiple times a day so that there's access to water for the geese to bathe, but also for all of the other birds. A lot of our younger birds have been coming out and bathing as well. But I'll show you this coop. You can see it's quite quiet. Nobody is outside except for Simon because he can hear me talking. Simon gets really bored, so I have to keep an extra eye on him that he's not picking on and trying to eat or kill anybody. So just trying to keep them busy. I have moved their water closer yesterday. The birds all want to be indoors, and in shade as much as possible. I moved their water closer to the door for them so they could see that I gave them fresh water. The birds are all very irritated, so I throw out more scraps and things to do to keep them busy. Simon gets very bored and irritated, so I make sure that there's things for them to do when it's really hot and they don't want to be out. They have watermelon inside the coop to pick at, and then all of this grain out here and fresh water. Giving them grain outside and inside so that they don't have to be in. You can see in this coop the watermelon shell from yesterday. And in here, all of the birds are hanging out away from the heat. It's much, much cooler in here than it is out there, so most of the birds are here. You can see them scratching in the grain I fed them this morning, so they are definitely preferring to stay in here where it is much, much cooler. That is all for this week. We are just trying really hard to get things done and accomplished in this heat and keeping our birds nice and healthy and cool as much as possible. We'll see you guys next week. Ouch, you little stinker. Don't poke me.